Yo, what is up, guys? XRP's at $1.10 right now on CoinMarketCap. Our first tweet comes from Bank XRP. Kalshi says 40% on Clarity Passage. The Blockchain Association CEO says 60%, and she's 99% confident a vote happens at all. Her theory: Congress banned staff slash members from prediction markets months ago, right around when Kalshi slash Polymarket odds stopped tracking DC sentiment. Coincidence? She doesn't think so. Our next tweet comes from Bank XRP. Banks are just waiting for the green light. Raoul Pal, once the Clarity Act passes, all the banks are going to come in and build out their crypto rails fast. And which token has been battle tested, SEC cleared, and institutionally held for years? The rails are already built. XRP. Let's watch this video.
From when I first got into the space, we said we were going to front run Wall Street. That was 2013. We've always said it, and here they are. When I've been speaking to the sovereign wealth funds here this week, and they've all got crypto in their books now.
And they're openly talking about their allocations.
And not only that, but the Treasury Secretary of the United States, who was an ex-macro hedge fund manager, friend of mine, he openly talks about how important it is. We've got Donald Trump talking about it. We've got everybody talking about it. We've got every financial institution building on stablecoin rails. We've got once the Clarity Act is passed, then all of the banks will start building out their crypto rails for everything. And if you speak to everybody, the banks need the clarity. The asset managers need the clarity. The corporations need the clarity. Everyone needs the clarity of the Clarity Act. Once you get it, it's the green line. They're all waiting for what exactly is, which things are securities, which are not, how does it all work? And once you've got it, we've got a roadmap. And everybody wants to go. Everybody wants to build on these rails, particularly the financial system, because it's so efficient and so fast to do things that they're incentivized to do it.
Smash that subscribe button and hit that like button if you believe XRP will reach $3 again this year. Our next tweet comes from the Crypto Squire. Final push: Coinbase Vice Chair Ryan Van Grack says the Clarity Act is now on the 1-yard line. According to him, clear legislation will create the regulatory foundation needed to accelerate growth across the entire digital asset industry. Incoming. Let's watch this video.
Well, it's important not to lose the forest for the trees, because if you go one layer deeper, all of the trend lines are positive. You have broad institutional adoptions happening all of the time. Coinbase continues to form important partnerships with major financial institutions. You see innovation continuing to accelerate at a pace never before seen across the industry. And you see legislative and regulatory developments all helping create the scaffolding that's going to turbocharge Coinbase and the industry more broadly.
Our next tweet comes from Crypto Barbie. Remember when U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said 2025 was setting the table? The feast and the banquet will be in 2026. It's happening in 2026. Let's watch this video.
I would categorize 2025. We had some important victories, some important policy announcements, some important movement. But as I've described it, 2025 was setting the table, and especially on the economy, I think the feast and the banquet's going to be in 2026.
Our next tweet comes from the Crypto Square. Japan builds with XRP. Japan has launched a $10 billion in yen in blockchain-based security token bonds with XRP rewards for investors. Another sign that XRP is becoming part of real-world financial infrastructure. Our next tweet comes from Crypto Barbie. CEO of Japan Exchange Group Hiromi Yamaji announced live on Bloomberg that they will be introducing crypto ETFs. Japan is all in XRP. Let's watch this video.
As well.
Well, I think as far as the crypto is concerned, as you may know, that at this moment, I mean, the Japanese FSA had a special committee to discuss about the crypto currencies, and I think the new revision of the law is at the diet. I think we will start forming some sort of a product about the cryptocurrency next year, maybe. So we will do it, and also other than that, I think prediction market, I think that's a bit difficult for us to adopt in Japan because criminal law kind of things, So there are only some of the horse races, like bicycle races, are allowed just because of the special law legislation on that. So if that's the case, we can do it. But then other than that, it may be difficult for us to start those kind of products in Japan.
Our next tweet comes from Coin Bureau. Just in, Japan is planning to legalize crypto ETFs. Finance Minister Satsuki Katayama confirmed the government would like to proceed with considerations toward legalizing cryptocurrency ETFs in Japan as well, per Nikkei. The move follows a parliamentary vote to classify crypto as regulated financial products in the world's third largest economy. Our next tweet comes from Bank XRP. Franklin Templeton executive just said the quiet part out loud. XRP is well past the journey, compared to new chains showing up weekly asking for issuance. Let's watch this video.
On their chain. How do you evaluate the right chain and specifically, like, where does XRP fit into that, and what are you excited about with regards to XRP and institutional adoption and also the chains that come to you, which I'm sure are coming to you weekly at this point.
Well, yeah, because there's a lot of new change too, and I think one of the things that another trend that you see globally is that very large institutions, kind of whales that are sitting out there in the global economy, are finding, they're understanding this ecosystem a little bit more, and they're trying to migrate people to using, chains or side chains that they have decided to kind of adopt. And so you do see a proliferation of that. And, from Franklin Templeton's perspective, we're going to go where the customers are, quite frankly, right? You're always listening to your customers, and, XRP and the community around XRP is pretty aggressive at, growing and iterating for these purposes, these trillions of dollars purposes that, that we've been speaking about before. And so we have a lot of enthusiasm about working with the team specifically. When our journey started with the global regulators, and, we touch a lot of different global regulators, we did create a kind of a selection criteria that kind of, I hesitate to use the word protocol, but it does become kind of a standard when you're the first one through the door and you're learning up these regulators, quite frankly, toward, not that you're, trying to be a decentralized, permissionless issuer of an asset, but you're actually, you're in a securities business and you're permissioned and you're just trying to use these rails as your underlying, data kind of database operating system by and large. And so there's a number of things that we kind of punched through there with the regulators to put that template in place. But we think that, XRP is, well past the journey of even new chains, toward that end. And I think, quite frankly, one of the things that we like the most as the technology at XRP continues to iterate is just the leadership. When I go into meetings with XRP and Ripple, I'm looking at, quite frankly, I'm like looking in the mirror at people that have the same, decades of experience in developing these things, as opposed to just we want to move fast and break shit and and move forward. And so it's wisdom of applying these things that's super important. It's not always just the technology; it's the leadership that's implementing the technology, quite frankly, toward broad purposes, that's going to determine the success of the project.
Our next tweet comes from Crypto Barbie. Big breaking: the DTCC has just announced that the new era of tokenization will begin on July 15th. Ripple is fully integrated within the DTCC's NSCC system, XRP DTCC. Our next tweet comes from Ripple Zitty. Just in, Japan leads the world in XRP adoption. Our next tweet comes from Zave Crypto. Blockchain Association's CEO thinks Kalshi has it wrong on Clarity. She's 99% sure a Senate vote happens, and pegs passage odds around 60%, well above Kalshi's 40%. Her read staff/members bans from prediction markets in June may have broken the wisdom of the crowd pricing. Let's watch this video.
40% on Kalshi, and I'm saying vote wise, I'm like 99% sure we're going to have a vote. Obviously, a lot of crazy stuff could happen and set that back, but I feel very strongly that we're going to have a vote. As far as passage, I've been at about 60%. Some of that's just gut instinct from years of working in the Senate, being around legislative process, seeing what's happening. The right people are in the room talking about this, so that really does make me feel more confident that we're in the right direction. But whenever people say to me, well, that's not what I'm reading in Polymarket or Kalshi. Well, Congress just about maybe 2 months ago actually banned all of congressional staff from being on prediction markets. So I actually think there might be a correlation here between when Congress said, staff and members can no longer be on prediction markets, and when the prediction markets started to not track what I think is kind of everybody else's opinion in Washington as to where we are with Clarity. So that's another one of those where the prediction markets are great, but there are some things that don't work quite right. And I think they're wrong on this account. I think we're going to have a vote, and I feel like we're going to get there on passage.
Our next tweet comes from Bitcoin Magazine. Just in, Congressman French Hill says lawmakers are going to have a field hearing for the Clarity Act in New York next week. We've got to get this market framework in place to be combined with the Genius Act. Let's watch this video.
Poe. Congressman, we got to talk about the Clarity Act. We are approaching the 1-year anniversary of the House passing the Clarity Act. It's been stuck in the Senate since then. Debate centered around ethical issues in the bill. CFTC Chairman Michael Seelig joined me earlier this week, and here's what he said to me about it. Watch. Is it that the Democrats are stopping the progress because of ethics issues and trying to get specific language in there about President Trump and his family in crypto?
Well, there's certainly some mission creep beyond what's really critical here. We want to set standards and protect consumers, protect investors, and that's something that Democrats and Republicans should be able to get behind. I do think there's a little bit of this creep into ethics and other types of extraneous issues, and they're just derailing this real opportunity to have a bipartisan bill in place. Otherwise, you end up with regulators like me writing all the rules, and I'm sure all the Democrats would prefer to get something in place that's bipartisan.
So, Congressman, I'd love to know your thoughts on what's holding this back. I will be speaking with the vice chairman of Coinbase momentarily. Ryan Van Grack will be joining me in the next hour. But we've already talked about what Jamie Dimon said about the Clarity Act, even though he reluctantly supported where we are right now. You said the Clarity Act will end years of regulatory uncertainty. But we're not certain that this is going to get across the finish line yet because it's stuck in the Senate. What's going on?
Well, that's a problem. I want to thank Gillibrand and Lummis and Bozeman and Scott and many others on both sides of the aisle who want to get to yes. And they've been working with our bill where we got 78 Democrats to support our bill exactly a year ago. We're coming to New York next week to have a field hearing led by Brian Stile, our subcommittee chair on digital assets, to highlight why this is so important to have a market framework. We've got to get beyond concerns that some have about ethics. And I would summarize it like this, Maria. If we passed the Clarity Act last summer, many of the things that people were expressing concern about, meme coin issuance, co-investment, use of exchange, investing in exchanges, all that would be under a market framework of regulation with clarity, no pun intended. And that would provide a lot of transparency to people that are concerned about the Trump family's investments. We've got to look at the big picture here. And we've got to get this market framework in place to be combined with the Genius Act, which is the stablecoin legislation that's already been enacted into law. You can't have a functioning, innovative marketplace and grow this economy on blockchain and use digital assets and tokenization if you don't have both. Stablecoin is like a cell phone not connected to a cell phone network. And the market framework that Mike Seelig talked about is, in fact, that network that we need.
So before I move on to the Housing Act, do you expect that the Senate feels that way, the way you do, and will get this on the floor and pass the Clarity Act soon? You think it'll happen this summer?
I've encouraged Senate leadership to put it on the floor. I think if you schedule a floor date here in the month of July, that will cause these final meetings, these final discussions to take place. You've got to have a deadline in Congress to get people to move and find consensus.
Yeah.
Real quick, if this helped, press the like button. It tells YouTube to show this to people who want the truth, not hype. And press the subscribe button if you're done being sold the moon. I've already got your next one right here. Go.